Eid al-Adha, or Bakra Eid, is one of the most significant and cherished festivals in the Islamic calendar. It is a time filled with joy, reflection, community, and the sacred tradition of Qurbani, the sacrifice of an animal in remembrance of Prophet Ibrahim's, peace be upon him, immense faith and obedience to Allah. Yet behind the festive atmosphere, the ritual of animal sacrifice carries deep spiritual meaning and ethical responsibilities that many may not fully understand. Today, we embark on a journey to uncover the profound heart of Qurbani, its ethical foundations, and why it continues to be a powerful symbol of faith and compassion. Imagine for a moment the profound moment in history when Prophet Ibrahim A.S. was tested by Allah. The command to sacrifice his beloved son was not just a test of obedience, but of ultimate trust in God's wisdom and mercy. This moment is etched into the consciousness of every Muslim as a testament to surrendering one's desires for the sake of divine will. The sacrifice he was willing to make was immense. Not just the life of his son, but the loss of his hopes and dreams. Yet Allah, in His infinite mercy, replaced the son with a ram, sparing the boy and accepting Ibrahim's unwavering devotion. Qurbani today is not merely about the physical act of slaughtering an animal, it is about embodying that same spirit of sacrifice, surrendering what is precious for the sake of faith, charity, and community. It is a call to look beyond ourselves and recognize that our blessings come with responsibilities, to share, to give, and to act with kindness. However, the practice of animal sacrifice often raises questions and concerns, especially in our modern world where animal rights and ethical treatment are critical issues. How can we reconcile this age-old tradition with contemporary values of compassion and kindness toward animals? Islam addresses this with clear guidelines and principles that place immense importance on the ethical treatment of animals before, during, and after the sacrifice. From the very start, Islam teaches that animals are God's creations and must be treated with respect and mercy. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself demonstrated kindness toward animals in countless teachings and actions. He forbade cruelty, urged people to feed and care for animals, and emphasized mercy in all dealings. The sacrifice during Eid is to be performed with the utmost care to minimize suffering. The animal chosen for Qurbani should be healthy, free of defects, and well cared for. It should not be mistreated or neglected in any way. The person performing the sacrifice is instructed to use sharp instruments to ensure a swift and humane process, avoiding unnecessary pain. The animal should be placed comfortably, and the prayer before the act reminds the person and community that this is a sacred act done in obedience to God. The emphasis is always on respect. Respect for the animal, the community, and above all for the divine command. What truly sets Qurbani apart is the emphasis on intention, or niyyah. The act is not about showing off wealth or status. It is about humility and devotion. It is about fulfilling a divine command and sharing blessings with those less fortunate. The meat from the sacrifice is divided carefully into 3 parts. One for the family, one for relatives and friends, and one for the poor and needy. This division reflects the true spirit of Eid, celebration mingled with compassion, joy shared with generosity. Consider the joy in the eyes of a family receiving meat during Eid, who otherwise may have little to eat. Consider the relief in the heart of a hungry child who benefits from the Qurbani meat. The act of sacrifice becomes not a mere ritual, but a powerful act of social justice and community support. It reminds us that faith is not only a personal journey, but a communal responsibility. In recent years, many Muslims worldwide have become more conscious of environmental concerns and animal welfare. Islam's principles align well with this consciousness. Avoiding waste, ensuring animals are treated well, and respecting local laws are part of living our faith authentically. Many communities now organize collective sacrifices to ensure efficient use of resources and broad distribution, minimizing excess and maximizing benefit. It is important to address common misconceptions about Qurbani as well. Some critics may view animal sacrifice as outdated or cruel. Yet when understood in its full context, Qurbani is a deeply ethical practice rooted in mercy, responsibility, and spirituality. The Quran and Hadiths make it clear that unnecessary cruelty is forbidden. The sacrifice is done with mindfulness and respect, reflecting a broader Islamic ethic of compassion for all creatures. The emotional depth of Qurbani touches every heart during Eid. It is a reminder of sacrifice, of letting go, of giving, and of trusting God's wisdom. It is an opportunity to renew faith and to strengthen bonds with family and community. It calls us to remember the less fortunate and to act with generosity. The practice is a beautiful balance of joy and solemnity, gratitude and humility. As we begin to explore the ethics of animal sacrifice in Islam in this series, remember that Qurbani is more than tradition. It is a living, breathing expression of faith that connects us to our history, our community, and our Creator. It invites us to live with intention, kindness, and awareness. So this Eid, as you prepare your Qurbani, think about the profound legacy you are part of. The legacy of Ibrahim's faith, Muhammad's compassion, and the timeless Islamic call to mercy. May our sacrifices reflect our deepest values, respect for life, love for God, and care for humanity. The ethical guidelines and deep spiritual meaning behind animal sacrifice in Islam. As we journey deeper into understanding ethical animal sacrifice, or Qurbani, it is essential to appreciate that Islam provides not only spiritual significance, but also very clear ethical and practical guidelines to ensure the act is performed with compassion and integrity. This sacred ritual is an expression of submission to God's will, but it is equally a call to act with kindness toward the animals, our community, and ourselves. First and foremost, the animal chosen for Qurbani must be healthy and free from defects. Islam places great importance on offering the best to God, and that means selecting an animal that is in good condition, not sick, weak, or deformed. This requirement is more than a simple rule. It is a reflection of the respect Islam demands for all of God's creatures. The animal's well-being before the sacrifice is a sign of the owner's care and responsibility. Neglect or cruelty has no place in this tradition. The Quran and the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emphasize this care. The Prophet instructed his followers to feed and water animals, to treat them kindly, and to avoid causing unnecessary suffering. The ethical treatment of animals is intertwined with our spiritual health. When we act mercifully toward the creatures God has entrusted to us, we demonstrate our submission to divine commands and our humility as stewards of creation. Before the sacrifice, the animal should be well cared for. It should be fed, given water, and kept calm. This reduces stress and ensures the animal is treated with dignity. The person performing the sacrifice must also be mindful, using sharp knives to make the cut swiftly to minimize pain, performing the act gently, and following the prescribed prayers to honor the ritual's spiritual nature. It is important to mention that Islam forbids slaughtering animals in front of other animals. The act should be done in a way that does not cause panic or distress to the rest of the herd. This shows how deeply Islam considers animal welfare in even the smallest details. The intention, or niyyah, behind the sacrifice is paramount. This is not a ritual of mere formality or display of wealth. Instead, it is a deeply personal act of obedience and submission to God. The sacrifice serves to remind Muslims of their dependence on Allah's mercy and the importance of selflessness. The meat is shared generously, reflecting that true faith is expressed through generosity and care for others. Sharing the meat with the poor and needy is one of the most beautiful aspects of Qurbani. It turns the act from a private devotion into a communal celebration. The division of meat into 3 parts, for the family, friends, and the less fortunate, embodies the Islamic principles of social justice and compassion. It ensures that Eid is a time when no one is left hungry or isolated. The joy of Eid spreads through acts of kindness, and Qurbani is a powerful means of fostering this spirit. In today's world, with growing awareness about animal rights and environmental sustainability, many Muslims seek ways to honor these principles in their Qurbani practices. This has led to the rise of collective or community Qurbani, where multiple people share the cost of a single sacrifice, ensuring efficient use of resources and broad distribution of the meat. These initiatives reduce waste and increase the social impact of the sacrifice. Local laws and community guidelines also play an important role. Muslims are encouraged to respect animal welfare laws and regulations in their countries. Performing Qurbani in approved slaughterhouses or designated areas helps ensure hygiene, proper animal handling, and environmental care. It is a way of balancing religious duties with civic responsibility. Addressing common misconceptions is critical for promoting understanding. Many outside the Muslim community may see animal sacrifice as cruel or unnecessary. However, when we look closely, Islamic Qurbani is rooted in respect, mercy, and careful ethics. The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, taught that mercy should extend to all creatures, and Islam forbids any act that causes undue suffering. Qurbani is a spiritual exercise in compassion, showing love for God's creation by fulfilling His commands with kindness. It teaches Muslims to be mindful, intentional, and gentle. The act also serves as a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life and the moral responsibilities humans bear as caretakers of the earth. On a deeper level, the sacrifice symbolizes the Muslims' willingness to let go of worldly attachments and surrender fully to God's will. It calls on believers to offer the best of themselves, whether wealth, time, or effort, in God's service. This spiritual surrender is echoed in the physical sacrifice of an animal, representing the giving up of personal desires for a higher purpose. Emotionally, Qurbani connects Muslims to a shared heritage and collective memory. It binds families, communities, and generations. The act recalls the trials of Prophet Ibrahim, whose faith continues to inspire millions. Every year, Muslims renew this covenant, reminding themselves of the values of trust, obedience, and sacrifice. Consider the joy and relief felt by those who receive the Qurbani meat, families who may struggle to afford nutritious food, children who taste the generosity of the community, and elders who find comfort in knowing they are not forgotten. The ritual thus becomes a source of hope and solidarity. In this way, Qurbani transcends the act of slaughter. It becomes a catalyst for kindness, unity, and social welfare. It embodies the core Islamic teachings of empathy, charity, and respect for all beings. As we reflect on these ethical and spiritual dimensions, it is important for Muslims to approach Qurbani with sincerity and mindfulness. Whether performing the sacrifice personally or participating in community programs, the focus should remain on fulfilling God's command with compassion and integrity. The ethical animal sacrifice in Islam is a powerful reminder that faith and kindness go hand in hand. It teaches us that true devotion is not just in rituals, but in how we treat all of creation with mercy, care, and justice. Practical guidelines, community spirit, and deepening the ethical understanding of Qurbani as we continue our exploration of ethical animal sacrifice in Islam. It becomes vital to understand not just the spiritual significance, but also the practical steps that ensure Qurbani is performed with the utmost compassion, respect, and benefit to the community. This part will guide you through the proper way to carry out the sacrifice, ways to engage your community meaningfully, and how to internalize the deep ethics behind the ritual. Choosing the right animal, respecting God's creation, the journey toward an ethical Qurbani begins well before the knife touches the animal. It starts with the choice of the animal itself. Islam prescribes that the animal should be healthy, free from disease or injury, and have no deformities that would lessen its value or cause unnecessary suffering. Commonly, goats, sheep, cows, and camels are used, depending on the region and cultural context. Choosing a healthy animal is a reflection of your respect for God's creation and a testament to your sincerity. It acknowledges that the sacrifice is not merely symbolic, but a genuine offering of the best you can give. This selection also has practical implications. A healthy animal ensures the meat is safe and nutritious for distribution, maximizing the benefit for the community. Before the sacrifice, the animal should be fed well, given fresh water, and kept in a calm environment. This care reduces stress and pain during the process. Many Muslims now insist on visiting the animals beforehand, sometimes even selecting them personally, ensuring the animal's welfare is prioritized. This practice deepens the emotional and spiritual connection between the giver, the animal, and the divine command. Preparing for the sacrifice, a moment of reflection and reverence. On the day of sacrifice, it is recommended to perform the act early, preferably after the Eid prayer. Before proceeding, the person performing the Qurbani should wash their hands, face, and limbs, symbolizing purity and readiness to fulfill a sacred duty. The act itself begins with invoking the name of Allah by saying Bismillah, in the name of Allah, and Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. This prayer centers the mind and heart on the spiritual purpose behind the physical act. It reminds the sacrificer and the community that this is an act of obedience and worship, not merely a ritual slaughter. The sacrifice should be done swiftly and gently, using a sharp knife to ensure a quick cut that minimizes pain. Islam explicitly prohibits any form of cruelty or unnecessary suffering. The animal should not see the knife beforehand, nor should it be slaughtered in front of other animals to prevent fear or distress. It is also important that the animal's throat, windpipe, and blood vessels be cut, allowing the blood to drain out quickly, a method that aligns with both religious guidelines and humane slaughter practices. Sharing the blessings, distribution with compassion. One of the most beautiful and ethical dimensions of Qurbani is the division of the meat into 3 parts. 1/3 for the family. This allows the household to partake in the blessing and celebrate Eid together. 1/3 for friends and relatives. Sharing with loved ones fosters community bonds and collective joy. 1/3 for the poor and needy. This embodies the spirit of charity and social responsibility at the heart of Islam. This tripartite division ensures that the sacrifice is not a solitary act, but a communal celebration of generosity and care. By including the less fortunate, Qurbani becomes a powerful tool for social welfare, reinforcing the idea that faith manifests in kindness and justice. Many communities organize collective efforts to ensure the meat reaches those who need it most. Orphanages, shelters, and impoverished neighborhoods. This collective distribution not only maximizes the impact of the sacrifice, but also builds a sense of unity and shared purpose. Engaging the community. Collective sacrifice and charity. In modern times, collective Qurbani programs have gained popularity. These initiatives allow individuals to pool resources to buy livestock in bulk, often in regions where poverty is widespread. The animals are then sacrificed and the meat distributed to the needy, sometimes across continents. This approach brings many advantages: efficiency. Large-scale buying reduces costs and logistical complexities. Wider impact. The meat can reach more people, often in areas with acute food insecurity. Community spirit, collective efforts foster cooperation, generosity, and a shared spiritual experience. Whether you perform the sacrifice personally or contribute to a collective program, the goal remains the same: to fulfill God's command with sincerity, mercy, and awareness of others' needs. Environmental responsibility, balancing tradition and sustainability. Islam teaches stewardship of the earth, that humans are caretakers responsible for protecting and preserving the environment. This principle extends to Qurbani. Avoiding waste is critical. All parts of the animal should be used wisely: meat, bones, and offal, either for food, tools, or fertilizer. Throwing away edible meat is discouraged. Many communities now work to ensure that slaughtering and disposal are done in hygienic, environmentally responsible ways, respecting local regulations and minimizing ecological impact. By balancing religious obligations with environmental consciousness, Muslims honor both God and His creation. Addressing modern concerns, animal welfare and ethical slaughter. With growing global awareness about animal welfare, many Muslims are adopting additional measures to ensure Qurbani aligns with the highest ethical standards. These include veterinary checks, ensuring animals are healthy and fit for sacrifice. Humane handling, reducing stress by gentle handling and quiet environments. Training, educating those who perform the sacrifice on proper techniques to minimize suffering. Such steps reinforce that Qurbani is not a ritual divorced from compassion, but deeply rooted in mercy. The inner dimensions, spiritual transformation through Qurbani. Beyond all practicalities, Qurbani is a profound spiritual exercise. It challenges believers to reflect on their relationship with God and creation. By offering something valuable, Muslims practice detachment from materialism and cultivate gratitude for divine blessings. The sacrifice is a reminder that life itself is a trust from God, and we must live responsibly. Moreover, Qurbani inspires empathy, stepping into the shoes of those who struggle for basic needs and renewing commitment to justice and charity. This inner transformation is the ultimate goal, a heart purified through obedience, generosity, and love. Common questions and misunderstandings. Many wonder about alternatives to animal sacrifice, such as donating money to charity. Islam permits and encourages such acts if performing Qurbani is impossible, emphasizing intention and sincerity above form. Others question the need for sacrifice in the modern age. Understanding the deep symbolism helps. Qurbani connects believers to a timeless story of faith, submission, and divine mercy. Educating communities about the ethical standards in Islam helps dispel myths and builds bridges of understanding with non-Muslims. Inspiring stories, community experiences, and making Eid meaningful through ethical Qurbaniyas. We approach the final stages of our exploration into ethical animal sacrifice in Islam. It's essential to reflect on how the ritual of Qurbani, or Bakra Eid sacrifice, is experienced in real communities through heartfelt stories and shared moments of faith. These stories illuminate how the spiritual, ethical, and social dimensions of Qurbani come alive, shaping lives and strengthening bonds. They also remind us how each individual's sincerity and compassion contribute to the greater tapestry of Islam's message. The power of personal stories. Connecting faith and compassion. One of the most profound ways to understand the true impact of Qurbani is through personal stories. Stories from individuals and families who prepare for and participate in the sacrifice reveal how this ritual touches hearts, renews faith, and fosters community. For instance, consider the story of a family in a rural village who may not have much materially, but prioritizes giving during Eid. They save money throughout the year to purchase a healthy goat or sheep, and the act of sacrificing it becomes a source of immense spiritual joy and communal sharing. The joy is not merely in the feast, but in the act of giving, knowing their neighbors, especially the less fortunate, will also share in the blessings. In urban centers, families participate in collective Qurbani programs. They donate funds to organizations that arrange the sacrifice and distribute meat to needy families, sometimes even in other countries facing famine or hardship. These acts transcend borders, demonstrating the universality of Islamic charity and mercy. Hearing about a child who receives Qurbani meat for the first time, or an elderly person comforted by the kindness of their community, makes the ritual come alive. It shows that Qurbani is not just a religious duty, but a living, breathing act of love and solidarity. Community experiences, strengthening bonds through shared. Sacrifice Qurbani is a communal event, and the way communities organize and celebrate. It speaks volumes about its role in fostering unity and social welfare. Many mosques and Islamic centers organize group sacrifices, creating a space where people come together, not only to fulfill religious obligations, but to bond, share, and learn from each other. These gatherings include prayers, educational talks about the significance and ethics of Qurbani, and communal meals. In some regions, traditional markets bloom during Eid, with families shopping for animals, exchanging greetings and celebrating. These moments reinforce social ties and cultural identity, reminding everyone of the shared values that Islam teaches. Moreover, distributing Qurbani meat to the poor is an act that brings the community together with a shared mission of caring for its most vulnerable members. Volunteers often come from all walks of life, unified by the desire to serve humanity. This collective effort transforms the ritual into a powerful social equalizer, bridging gaps and building compassion, making Eid meaningful. Beyond ritual to reflection and action. While the physical act of sacrifice is central, Eid al-Adha invites Muslims to reflect on the deeper meanings of sacrifice in everyday life. It is an opportunity to consider what we hold dear and how willing we are to give for the sake of others and for God. The sacrifice of an animal symbolizes the greater sacrifice of the self, surrendering pride, selfishness, and injustice. Making Eid meaningful means translating these lessons into actions throughout the year. It calls on us to be more charitable, patient, and just. It reminds us that faith is alive in our choices, how we treat neighbors, how we care for the environment, and how we stand against oppression. Families can use Eid as a teaching moment, involving children in understanding the history and ethics behind Qurbani. Storytelling, visits to slaughter sites, and participation in meat distribution help children grasp the values of empathy and responsibility, ethical challenges, and how communities overcome them. Of course, modern challenges test the practice of Qurbani. Some struggle with balancing tradition with ethical concerns about animal welfare and sustainability. Many communities have risen to this challenge creatively. For example, using professional butchers trained in humane methods ensures that the sacrifice is done efficiently and compassionately. Education campaigns raise awareness about animal care before and during Qurbani. There is also growing support for green Qurbani, using practices that minimize environmental impact, reduce waste and respect local regulations. Such initiatives reflect Islam's holistic approach to faith, caring for both people and planet. Global perspectives. Qurbani. Across cultures, Islamic communities worldwide celebrate Eid al-Adha with their unique cultural flavors, yet the ethical core remains intact. In South Asia, vibrant markets, traditional songs, and family gatherings create a festive atmosphere. The ethics of Qurbani are deeply rooted in centuries of Islamic scholarship and practice. In African nations, Qurbani is intertwined with local customs, but always emphasizes community support and animal welfare. In Western countries, Muslims often navigate challenges of regulations, cultural integration, and ethical debates, yet they find ways to maintain their traditions responsibly, often through community organizations. These diverse expressions showcase the beauty of Islam's universal principles adapting to local realities. The role of women and youth in ethical Qurbani. Women and youth are increasingly active in organizing and educating about ethical Qurbani. They bring fresh perspectives and enthusiasm to community initiatives. Women often lead food distribution efforts, ensuring that meat reaches homes efficiently and respectfully. Youth groups educate peers on humane practices, environmental care, and the spiritual dimensions of sacrifice. Their involvement strengthens the community fabric and ensures that ethical Qurbani remains vibrant and relevant. Spiritual reflections. Sacrifice as a way of life beyond the physical act. Qurbani is a metaphor for the spiritual life every Muslim strives to lead. It teaches self-sacrifice, humility, and dedication. Just as Ibrahim was ready to give his most precious for God's command, Muslims are called to sacrifice ego, harmful habits, and injustices in their own lives. This inner sacrifice is ongoing, reflected in daily prayers, acts of kindness, and striving for moral excellence. Eid al-Adha thus becomes not only a celebration but a spiritual renewal, a moment to recommit to living faith with sincerity. Encouraging ethical practice for future generations. As we look to the future, fostering ethical Qurbani practices among younger generations is vital. Education in schools, mosques, and homes about the spiritual and ethical teachings of Qurbani will help preserve this tradition's sacredness. Encouraging youth participation in community initiatives creates a sense of responsibility and pride. By nurturing awareness, empathy, and knowledge, we ensure that Qurbani remains a beautiful, ethical act of worship. Through inspiring stories, communal experiences, and deep reflections, we see that ethical animal sacrifice in Islam is much more than a ritual. It is a vibrant expression of faith that connects hearts, uplifts communities, and honors God's mercy. Reflecting on the sacredness of Qurbani, a call to compassion, unity, and purposeful faith. As we reach the final chapter of our exploration into ethical animal sacrifice in Islam, it is fitting to pause and reflect on the profound spiritual, social, and personal significance of Qurbani, or Bakra Eid sacrifice. Beyond the rituals, laws, and stories lies a timeless message of mercy, sacrifice, and heartfelt devotion that continues to illuminate the lives of Muslims worldwide. This final segment invites us to internalize these lessons, embrace the values of compassion and unity, and carry the spirit of Qurbani into our daily lives. The sacred trust. Understanding our role as stewards of life, Qurbani is a sacred trust given to Muslims, a responsibility that calls us to act with deep reverence toward God's creation. Each year during Eid al-Adha, believers are reminded of the delicate balance between honoring divine commands and upholding the dignity of all living beings. This trust extends beyond the act of sacrifice itself. It encompasses how we treat animals every day, how we engage with our communities, and how we nurture our own spiritual growth. Islam teaches that humans are caretakers of the earth, entrusted with protecting and respecting life. When we approach Qurbani with this awareness, we transform the ritual into an act of worship that honors all of creation. The transformative power of intentions. At the heart of every Islamic act of worship lies the principle of niyyah, sincere intention. Qurbani is no exception. The physical act of sacrifice gains its true spiritual value only when done with heartfelt devotion, humility, and the desire to please God. This sincerity moves beyond religious obligation to become a personal journey of transformation. It is an opportunity to examine our attachments, to practice selflessness, and to renew our commitment to living ethically and compassionately. When we sacrifice with pure intention, we open ourselves to spiritual blessings that enrich not only our own lives, but ripple through our families and communities. Compassion as the cornerstone. Compassion is the foundation upon which the ethics of Qurbani stand. Islam's insistence on kindness to animals, thoughtful treatment, and humane slaughter are manifestations of this value, but compassion is not limited to animals. It extends to our fellow humans, especially those in need. The sharing of Qurbani meat with the poor embodies this principle, reminding us that our faith is incomplete if we do not care for the vulnerable among us. This dual compassion toward creatures and people is a powerful reminder that Islam is a religion of mercy, the unity of the Ummah. Through Qurbani also serves as a unifying force for the global Muslim community, or Ummah. Regardless of race, nationality, or social status, Muslims worldwide participate in this sacred ritual, sharing in a collective act of worship that connects hearts and renews faith. This unity is especially evident in the distribution of Qurbani meat to the needy, spanning continents and cultures. It fosters a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood, reinforcing the Quranic teaching that believers are one body, each part supporting the other. Such unity strengthens the fabric of Islam and offers a hopeful example of harmony amid a fragmented world. Embracing ethical challenges and opportunities. In the modern era, Muslims face new ethical challenges related to animal welfare, environmental sustainability, and community dynamics. Embracing these challenges with openness and creativity is essential to keeping Qurbani aligned with Islamic principles. Initiatives like community Qurbani programs, humane slaughter education, and green Eid practices demonstrate how tradition and modern ethics can harmoniously coexist. By actively engaging with these opportunities, Muslims reaffirm their commitment to justice, mercy, and stewardship. A call to personal reflection and growth. Qurbani invites each believer to reflect deeply on their spiritual journey. It challenges us to ask, what are the attachments in our lives we need to sacrifice for the sake of God? How can we embody mercy and generosity beyond ritual? In what ways can we contribute to uplifting our communities? Answering these questions requires courage and honesty, but the rewards are immense: spiritual growth, peace, and connection to God's mercy. Inspiring future generations. One of the greatest gifts we can give is to educate and inspire the next generation about the true meaning of Qurbani. Teaching children and youth about the history, ethics, and spirituality behind the sacrifice ensures that this sacred tradition remains vibrant and meaningful. Involving young people in community service, ethical decision-making, and spiritual discussions builds a foundation for lifelong faith and compassion. Stories that inspire, real lives, real impact. Throughout history and today, countless stories illustrate the transformative power of Qurbani. Families who find joy in sharing despite limited means. Communities that come together to distribute meat to refugees and orphans. Individuals whose faith deepens through the act of sacrifice. These stories remind us that Qurbani is not merely a religious duty, but a living expression of humanity at its best. Final thoughts. Living the spirit of Qurbani. Every day as we conclude this series, let us carry forward the lessons of Qurbani, mercy, sacrifice, charity and unity, into every aspect of our lives. Let Eid al-Adha be more than a date on the calendar. Let it be a continual source of inspiration to live ethically, to care deeply, and to worship sincerely. May our sacrifices be accepted, our intentions purified, and our communities strengthened. A timeless legacy of mercy and faith. Qurbani stands as one of Islam's most profound legacies, a ritual rooted in the timeless story of Prophet Ibrahim's faith and God's mercy. It challenges us to balance obedience with compassion, ritual with ethics, and personal faith with communal responsibility. By embracing the spiritual and ethical dimensions of Qurbani, Muslims worldwide affirm their commitment to a faith that honors all of creation, uplifts the vulnerable, and connects hearts across time and space. This sacred act reminds us that true sacrifice is not measured in blood alone, but in the sincerity of our hearts, the generosity of our hands, and the kindness we extend to all beings. May this Eid al-Adha inspire us to live with compassion, justice, and devotion, today and every day.